I'd like to welcome to the show filmmaker Todd Jenkins, man. Thank you so much for being on the show, brother.
Thanks, man, for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate it, man. We have we've been introduced. I mean, I think you've been listening to me for a little while, right?
Yeah, I think I listened to you a whole lot more once the distributor thing happened, and I learned that you were full of knowledge of a lot of valuable information that I needed to know. So
Okay, good. So
'cause I was out having people, driving to LA and checking things out myself because I wasn't getting my first quarter payments from distributor, and I was in a panic.
well,
And
we
I
will.
didn't know how many other people were going through the same shit I was. So it was great to hear there was other people, but I know it fucking sucks.
Without question. And we're going to get all into distributor in a little bit, but I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about your story about how you made your independent film Cherokee Creek. So tell me about the film and how it came into life.
As far as conception, all the way back to that.
I mean, not conception, but just let's say,
Okay.
like starting the production of it.
Right. Okay. Well, I've been in the industry working in front and behind the camera for about 20 years now. And, I kept hearing horror story after horror story of every movie that would go through the normal distribution map. They just people were never making money. And I was always like a producer on these projects, but a lot of times I didn't get, all the information or they wouldn't tell me for whatever reason. So I decided if I wanted to know everything and be in control, I was going to have to do it myself. And plus, as an actor, I was getting really pissed off that these roles weren't happening. You get up for these parts for these huge studio films, and then they could just pull the carpet out from underneath you at the last second. So you're kind of like, dude, I got to do something. So if you look at a lot of the great actors today, a lot of them just did their own thing to get known. So I was like, man, I'm going to do that path. I'm going to do my own movie. I'll control everything. And if it's anybody's fault, it'll be mine. And I'll know 100% of what goes right or goes wrong. So I had the bright idea that I would do Cherokee Creek.
Okay, fair enough.
And then I started hearing about distributor and all these things, and I thought that might be a way to go, but we'll get to that later. But as I started wanting to make a movie, I had to figure out, I wanted to do something that I knew that would generate a lot of buzz and hit a niche audience, which I hear you talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and did a ton of research on Bigfoot movies, and every Bigfoot movie I saw, 98% of them were god-awful. I mean, they were terrible. So other than Exist at that time, there was no other Bigfoot movie I liked, of course, except for Harry and the Hendersons. But
I mean, obviously, that goes without saying, sir. Obviously.
Right. So I was like, man, this is something I could do. And I was even in a horrible Bigfoot movie myself. So I was like, I've got to do this great Bigfoot movie, but how can I do that and make it different? So I thought maybe take the whole raunchy horror comedy 80s style vibe going into it. So I wanted to do that. And little did I know that when people read the script, at least in Texas, they were going to freak out about it and say, man, this is just way too raunchy. It's got nudity. It's got too much language. I can't be a part of this. So people just started pulling out of the project right away, or they didn't show any interest. And even the guys that were promising me my first money to shoot my very first scene to kind of help get the Indiegogo campaign going, they pulled out at the 11th hour and just ghosted me like a week before. Mm-hmm. So then it was all about, okay, what do we do now? It was like, okay, talk to the wife, talk to my business partner. I'm going to put a lot of this shit on the credit card to get us going. So that's how it started. Mm-hmm. Then we tried the Indiegogo thing, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing with that. I think we only raised about $4,000 on Indiegogo, which was
from friends and family, basically.
Friends and family don't help me.
Okay, good. So you got people that like Bigfoot, apparently.
Right. I guess I got people. Well, I mean, there's probably more friends than family.
Fair enough.
You're fans of my work. But yeah, we got some people there, so we decided to push forward with the project. And then after I shot the opening sequence to the movie, I thought we had a real winner there. So I just kept investing more and more of my own money, because at that point, I was just tired of getting screwed over, meeting with investors who were full of shit most of the time. A lot of times, and even some of them had such egos.
Shocking.
Yeah, I was like, dude, I just can't handle this. I just can't handle any more of these meetings. So I was like, I'll just put in my money as we go. And we were usually shooting, maybe a day or two a week. So it wasn't too awful. Mm-hmm. I think I ended up, because I'd already owned a lot of production gear anyway, because I have my own production company. I think overall, as far as budget, for the movie itself, by the time it was over, at 6 months, I think I spent maybe 25 grand.
That's great.
Which is still a lot of money.
Well, no, it's a lot of money, but in the scope of making a movie, hey, dude, it's a lot of money for me too. Like, to drop if someone just told me like you need to drop 25K right now, I'd be like, ouch,
Exactly.
I've got family. I've got after school care.
On,
Do they want summer camp? I don't know.
Well, that's the weird thing about the money thing too. And investors who you knew were like millionaires, they were such tightwads, man. I mean,
that's why they're millionaires, sir.
Let go of like
that's
$5,000 or $2,000.
That is why they're millionaires, sir.
Well, we'll get into that another time. But,
sure.
But they could be like distributor, you know.
Yes,
they
exactly.
A lot of fucking money from people.
Yes.
But it would seem like people who were fans, you know, or that had some money, they would be willing to write you a check for $2,000 or $3,000. So I was like, this is so weird. Friends and family that I know don't want to give any money, but these people I don't freaking know are giving money. It's really weird.
Mm-hmm.
But we just kept making just enough to keep going. And I was blessed enough that the cast was willing to work for deferment, which we know is always a bad idea. But in my case, in my experience, I felt like, hey, I'm an honest guy. I'm going to take care of these guys. I know from the numbers this movie should generate 50 to 100 grand at worst.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I felt, knowing what I knew. But of course, that's a whole different story too now. So that's kind of how I got it done. Just a lot of favors. And then I had to do everything. One of the things I didn't mention was the cast. A lot of the cast I had to either fire or just had to start over with because they were freaking out that there was nudity in the movie and they didn't, you know, there was language. Everyone was just freaking out about the script all of a sudden. And I grew up watching movies like, you know, Porky's and Hot Dog and American Pie and The Hangover and all that stuff. So I was like, what the hell are these people talking about?
Right.
You know, and the funny thing was a lot of these people were fans of like Game of Thrones. So I was like, how is this movie that bad for you? Like, why are you so freaked out by it? But anyway, we finally got the right people together, but I had to be the DP. I had to do the gaffing. I had to do the sound mixing. I had to do everything. And luckily along the way, I ran into a relative that my cousin had just married this guy. He was going to be my relative by marriage. And he's like, man, I want to be a filmmaker. And I had remembered that conversation. And I remember telling him, like, yeah, right, you know, sure, everybody says that. So I called him up and said, man, you said you want to be a filmmaker. So if you want to be a filmmaker and you want to make no money and you want to come be an intern, film me whenever I'm doing my acting in the movie. Come on out and you can help. So that happened. And that's how we got the movie made. It was like no crew. I mean, I was literally doing wardrobe, craft services, you name it. I was having to do everything. And I was a lead in the movie. So it was a lot to keep all that shit in your mind. It was a 24/7 thing that was all I could focus on. There was no outside stuff coming in. Like even if my wife wanted to talk to me, I was like, hey, I can't talk to you right now. It's all about the movie today. So sorry.
Fair enough. So then, all right. So you finish your movie, which was an odyssey in itself, and you dropped out about 25K out of your own pocket to make this thing happen. What was your distribution strategy? What made you like, okay, so how am I, because I'm assuming you were thinking, how am I going to make money with this movie from the very beginning of this?
Of course.
Right. Well, don't say of course, because a lot of filmmakers are like, I'm an artist. I'm just going to make a movie just because I'm an artist. I'm assuming you knew about the business side of things. So you were trying to think about it.
Years of getting screwed over and watching and talking to people for years that have gotten screwed over, I was like, not doing the regular distribution map, man. I'm not going to do that business model. I'm going to do my self-distribution. And then I started kind of submitting to film festivals, and I wasn't getting any luck there. And I'm sure they thought the movie at the time. And I think the Me Too movement had just started.
Bad time.
With all this nudity in my movie and all this, I was like, dude, I'm not going to get into anything. But that actually ended up being a blessing that the local film festival here in Dallas didn't want to screen it. So I was like, why not just put my own screening on? So I did 2 screenings of it. I brought in stand-up comics to open the movie. I did the red carpet. Some people came out and did a documentary of the 2 screenings. It was awesome. I mean, we had tons of people. I think we ended up grossing between $14,000, $15,000 off that. And I was like, wow, that was the best thing to ever do. It was so much better because if I would have been in that local film festival,
you would have made
$0.
I want to just say something. So many filmmakers don't understand that. Part of it is like, oh, I just want to put it in a film festival. You're not getting any money from that.
Exactly.
And especially if you're in a local film festival in Dallas that really no one cares about, no offense to that festival, but there's only 3, 4, 5 festivals in the world that anyone even gives two craps about for really that mean anything to the bottom line, at least, that mean anything to the bottom line. Maybe Fantastic Fest would probably do well for you, or Scream Fest or something like that.
I submitted, man.
No, I know.
I think another movie did, but
but that's the point.
I didn't know the right people.
Right, exactly. And don't get me wrong, my last movie did the same thing. I got into one big festival, and then after that, like, nobody else accepted it for whatever stick up their butts. But anyway,
right.
But that's the thing, is that filmmakers don't understand that if they put their own screening on, they can actually make money. And why not? And I have another guy who did a movie that he made, I think, like upwards of the mid 5 figures off of his screening of one night plus merchandising. He built an event. Right. But a lot of people underestimate that.
We had these T-shirts there. I bought
100
great T-shirts. Made $2,500 on the T-shirts because we sold all 100 T-shirts.
And there you go. Look at that. And then you're like, damn it, why didn't I have 200 T-shirts?
Yeah, and then you're like, well, and as soon as I did that, my dumbass was thinking, hey man, I can't wait to get this thing out on digital. Big mistake.
If I would have been consulting you at this point, I would have gone, dude, you got to go to horror conventions, set up a booth, and sell DVDs, sell Blu-rays, and sell even VHS copies if you can make some VHS copies of it, because your niche, your horror niche, loves physical media, and you can make a ton of cash touring just horror conventions. And you're an actor, so you have fans, so you could be doing autograph sessions. That's where I would have told you to go. And you can still do this, by the way.
We are doing that now.
Good.
We just did it later. But looking back, I'm thinking, why didn't we just hold on? What was this rush to get it on digital? Mm-hmm. When we could have built this buzz and did more of a limited theatrical release and did it in more cities, because of all the buzz we generated from the first 2 screenings. But once we put it out on digital, and I also made another mistake. At the beginning of our movie, we put these ski masks on, and we told people who pirate movies what we think about them. We told them that we thought they were pieces of shit and they should fucking die. Yeah, we did all this fun. It's meant to be funny, but a serious message. And a lot of people loved it. So we just kept doing this. We would do this at the screenings, and we would do videos, with these things. We called them the kidnappers. And everybody fucking loved it. But Amazon did not love that. So what happened was, when the movie came out on December 25th, as you know, your movie gets pirated pretty much within the 2 hours it comes out on iTunes or any digital platform. They didn't like that overseas too much. So our movie went from having like a 7.5, 8 rating on IMDb to almost like a 2, because all the people who stole the movie gave us a 1 because they didn't like that we were making fun of them for pirating movies. So
ironic, isn't it?
So ones within. So when I woke up Christmas morning, my movie went from like 7, 8 on IMDb to almost like 2. It was like, what the hell? I knew piracy was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad.
Oh, it's really they don't bad. Play, and especially for your genre. Your genre being horror is pretty. It's a very pirated genre without question. All right, so you decided to go digital, and now you're doing self-distribution. And I think honestly, again, if I would have been consulting you, I'd be like, this is a good candidate for self-distribution. It's a really good candidate. It's a smart number. You made the movie for a smart number. It's a good genre, even though you don't have any stars. But horror films, you don't need stars. You have a great hook. Right. Bigfoot. It all makes sense. So you decide to go with this little company called Distributor. Now, for everyone listening, at this point, you should know about Distributor and the debacle that has gone on with Distributor. And I was the first one that came out and broke the story about Distributor. And Todd, I met Todd on our Facebook group, Protect Yourself from Distributor, which I launched shortly after my first podcast. And I've seen I've seen you posting stuff, and then of course you posted that very restrained YouTube video that was very kind and very eloquent in how you perceive the situation. I felt, and
that's the kind I'm going to get with him. I'm not going to get much more kind.
So I'm being facetious, guys. He tore up everybody who ever talked to him at Distributor, and with complete. I completely understand. I completely support that feeling because I'm in the same boat, not in the same exact boat as you are.
Do we need to pull out the cell phone again?
No. Let's not do this now. We're recording as we speak, sir. There's no need. But when I saw that video, I was like, you know what, man? I think, and I did a little bit more research about you, and I was like, you know what, man? I think you're a great story to have on the show, because I've talked about distributor on the show now for weeks now. But this is a unique situation because now I wanted to put a face and also a story behind what the pain that is happening to filmmakers like you. You are a representation of thousands of filmmakers who are going through this horror story, this devastating nuclear bomb that went off in their lives. And I wanted to bring you on. That's why I wanted to talk about how you made the movie, your struggles, everything that you've gone through. And now, so when you go to self-distribution, you go through distributor, explain what happens, and then we'll figure out, and then we'll talk about the wheels coming off.
Okay. Well, I started having some issues with distributor early on, and I wasn't thinking it was going to be as big a deal as it ended up being. But in December, we were supposed to have our movie come out December 25th, and I had already paid for Fandango Now and Amazon. They were two of the other platforms I was supposed to be approved to be released on December 25th. So we start. I mean, I'm all in on this movie. This is like my last hurrah in the film industry since I've been doing it so long. And I'd made a deal with my wife and everything because I'm sure she's tired of me being in the industry. She's like, "When's the fucking money gonna come in?" I'm like, "It's coming in on this movie. I swear to God, it's coming in. Just wait." I'm putting my whole life on it, betting my marriage, betting her money, betting some friends' money, betting everybody's money, including my own money on this movie.
And can I stop you there for a second? I've had that conversation with my wife. If any filmmaker who's married has had that conversation with their wife, it is not a fun conversation to have. It is, especially when you're doing your own money,
Exactly.
and then you're working with family money, because it's not your money. It's not like you're living on ramen with four roommates somewhere. You got a family. It's a whole other conversation.
Ramen, dude. I'm living on ramen right now. So.
I am sorry, sir, but I hope it's
fucking ramen, bro.
I hope it's organic ramen at least. Let's move on. Jesus.
Organic, bro. I got to get the 99-cent Walmart special.
Fuck. All right. So go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Yeah. And speaking of that, I actually are loaned someone because we did some stuff on Best Buy. I bought the Sony A7S Mark II, and I had her get that through Best Buy. I think at the time I must have spent $4,000 on the damn thing because I got the warranty, all the batteries. I went all out on this fucking camera back then, and now you can probably buy the thing for $1,500. So I owe more today on the camera than it's worth, and that payment through Best Buy is due before November 1st. So I wasn't worried about this, though, because I'm like looking at my reports from distributor, and I'm like, hey, I've got a check for $10,000, a check for $5,000, and I got all these checks coming in, so I'm not worried about it, until this debacle happens. And now I'm like, holy shit, how am I going to pay my wife, my friends, and survive, till the end of the year? So that's what I'm freaking out now. That's why I'm so exhausted. I'm taking every freaking job I can take, no matter what it is, and I'm working 24/7 to just stay afloat at the moment. Because I literally went from, as an actor, working in a Bella Thorne movie, if you know who Bella Thorne is.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Just did a movie with Bella Thorne. It's called Southland. It's going to be an awesome movie. You can look that up because I can't talk about it. Mm-hmm. And having my movie in the top 3 position on iTunes under horror comedy. So I was just pumping in like $500 a pop into marketing on all the social media platforms and everything. And I thought, man, this movie's going to go great. And my ego was trying to beat out the studio movies, so when I got to 3rd, it wasn't good enough for me.
No,
I was like, I want to get first because that I can put that, I can do a story on that. We can build more publicity, make even more sales. So I just kept spending more money on the marketing. So the next thing you know, I'm probably in a $3,000 or $4,000 hole in this marketing campaign. But the movie is generating money, and I can see that it is, so it doesn't bother me. I'm like, I'm at least doubling whatever I'm spending on marketing. So I'm not really worried about it because I know the check's coming in from distributor.
Obviously.
But of course, it didn't. Mm-hmm. It did not come in. So that's where I am right now. I'm in this fucking huge hole, man. And, I haven't seen a dollar from distributor from any of the quarters of 2019. No money whatsoever.
So basically you've never seen a dime off of the digital release of your film yet, even though you're owed anywhere between $15,000 to $40,000, let's say, somewhere around there. Is that fair to say?
I have no idea what I'm owed, to be honest with you. I think the reports are false. I think the last thing they said I did total on iTunes was like 700 something units, which I don't believe.
Mm-hmm. But you were making but the report
long, we did 700 units and it's been out for 9 months.
But but you had reports saying 5,000, 10,000, 5,000. You saw things that were coming in.
Yeah, I saw reports saying that, and I'm going by what the gross of the movie is, not what they're paying me, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Like Amazon takes 50%, so even if they make 40, Amazon pays me 20, whatever.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, whatever it is. Sure, sure.
It's still $20,000 is still a shit ton of money to me.
Yeah, of course, of course.
So I wasn't worried about the $500 a month on marketing or anything like that. I was feeling good about it. I was feeling great that we were in third place on iTunes, and I knew, and the charts just kept going up until this debacle happened. And the second I felt it was happening, and then I heard what you guys were going through, I pulled all my marketing, and then my movie just completely has disappeared. It's still on the digital platforms, but I mean, it's nowhere to be found. It's so far down the charts.
So not only did you take $25,000 out of your own pocket to go make this movie, then you started taking a loan out to actually do the marketing on this as well.
I did.
So altogether, how much do you think you've spent on this film?
Oh God, at least 50,000 at this point.
So you spent about 50 grand on this film at this point, and you would have been, that was a good investment to a certain extent because you were making money with it. Like you had a good ROI with your marketing campaign. You were seeing, you put $5 in, you were seeing either $5 come out or more,
right.
that, and you were just like, well, wait a minute, I'm going to feed this beast. I'm going to just keep feeding the beast. You were feeding the beast, right? Because, the money's going to come in. Why wouldn't it? It doesn't make any sense why I wouldn't get a check. You never that thought never crossed your mind, right? Never is like
right. I thought of the dashboard as kind of like, and I would tell my business partners, I was like, look, this is basically our bank account, and when we put money in it, it's just like it's going into savings. We're going to get it back. That's how I pitched it to them. Because I would be like, look, you can see right here it says 15 or 16,000. So whatever the number was on that platform, I'm like, and iTunes would update probably every 3 days or something like that, mm-hmm. And I'd say, hey. If we put in $50 for that day on that ad, and it generated 150 in revenue. So let's keep feeding this monster. So they were all for it, But that wasn't an investment from them. That was actually a personal loan I was doing from them. So they were getting that paid back immediately from the first check. It wasn't like
so you actually leveraged the distributor dashboard as proof that you were going to get paid,
and that I could pay the loan back.
Easily.
Easily.
Because the money was there. And in all honesty, everything that you were doing made perfect sense, and you weren't scamming anybody, because I would have said the exact same thing if I was in your situation. I'm like, look, I got $20,000 sitting in my distributor account. That's proof that checks, they just got to cut the check next month and I get that money. It's my money. Why wouldn't I get that money? And
then I was starting to get I finally, after begging, I got the first report for the first quarter. It just came in probably right before this whole debacle happened. Mm-hmm. Probably like 6 weeks ago. It took forever to get a fucking report from them.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
But I did get paid. As I get that first report, they finally give me the check for those 5 days or whatever I was on, from December 21st to December 31st. I got like a $2,000 check or something, because my movie was live only for a few days of the fourth mm-hmm. quarter. And
that was the last check you got?
Yeah, 6 months after it was due, or whatever the hell.
So things were already, there was some fishy stuff going on a year ago, a year and a half ago even, that you could just tell that people were just taking forever to get paid. Things were happening, because I've heard all these stories, and I'm like, yeah, man, it's taking me forever to get reports. I remember that I with my movie, This Is Meg, I just kind of, at a certain point, I just stopped even asking about it, because I'm like, it's been out forever. If I make, $100, $200, great. I'm not concerned with it. I got other things I'm doing.
Worried about it. I figured it's taking a long time to pay people.
Yeah, I'm like, it's taking them a minute. And by the way, I knew people who worked there. I knew the CEO. I knew Jason. I knew Neil. I knew all those guys.
Michael, right? Michael Sorensen?
I didn't know I think I might have met him at a party at Sundance. I think that might have happened once, but I didn't know him.
You knew Nick then?
No, Nick I've had on the show. Nick I had on the show.
Wow.
Jason I had on the show. I had Nick twice on the show. I had Jason has been on the show twice, and I think Neil I had him on once. So I was all in with Distributor in the early days, because they took good care of me. Like, I got a Hulu deal. I got paid off that Hulu deal.
Right.
Off of a $5,000 movie. I interviewed multiple case studies of people making millions off a distributor, like So to
Right.
me, it like why like just like you were like, oh, it's the dashboard.
Right.
Fine. It's gonna be
And that's what I was hearing too. I was hearing that from people, but then you would get these people who would do a video, kind of like a video I found recently. They would say how much distributors suck, but it was basically because they weren't making any sales because they didn't know how to market their movie. So
Right.
I just kind of like ignored those kind of.
And I heard I heard those kind of rumblings as well. I'm like, but I mean, I'm getting paid. I see other people that I know are getting paid.
Right.
I kind of didn't put any merit in it as well, because, you know, if you're angry and you're pissed off, I get it, and that's fine. But there was no reason, there were no real big giant signs that the ship was going down and it was going to take the rest of us with. Nobody knew it.
There was no signs of that. I mean, it was just people complaining that their movie wasn't, you know, in the top 10 on iTunes or Amazon, stuff like that. And I was
which is ridiculous.
You,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
That's up to you. That's what you signed up for. It's like, if you made a movie that can't make any money, that's your fault. I mean, you can't blame that on the distributor.
Exactly.
But
they're just a middleman just trying to get your film out there. Now, at what point did you realize that there was a problem with distributor and you're like, wait a minute, there's something fishy here?
Well, when we started talking, and then I wasn't hearing any responses from them back, I guess, at the end of May. It might have been even in June, July, something like that. The responses were taking longer, but I was still getting responses, still got my report. But then I was emailing the project manager through the dashboard, whatever the hell, saying, hey, I need an ETA on this check. I need this money, because we were planning on taking a vacation as well over the summer with the check, the first check that was supposed to come in.
Yeah.
That never came in. So not only that, am I not paying the wife back? I didn't take her on the vacation I promised her for the summer. So I'm just digging a hole deeper and deeper with my wife constantly with this damn distributor debacle. But I said, hey, I did the same thing. Hey, here's the dashboard. You see the checks coming in.
I would have done the exact same thing, dude.
Report when the check comes in. We'll go to Hawaii. We'll go do our thing. I'm going to pay for this great vacation. I'm going to pay you all the money back that you loan me. Everything's fine. You know, I never thought.
I would have done the same thing. Anybody in your position would have done the exact same thing, because there was no reason to think that a company would not pay you money that you're owed.
Right, or that they could legally get away with this. I never fathomed ever that they could just close up shop, disappear, you know, in the thin air. Because that's what I was telling you. I had somebody, one of my producers said she was in LA, and I gave her the address to distributor. I said, hey, could you go by there? And she went by, and she's like, there's nobody there. And according to the people at this building, they're saying they haven't seen anybody there in like a month or even longer. And I think I told you that information as well, and you were doing your stuff as well. And that's when I started thinking that, oh shit, we're in trouble. But we didn't really have any real answers at that point. But no. Check this out. Friday the 13th of all fucking days, that's when they send me this email from Glass Rattner saying, hey, we understand we owe you money, but everything's being handled by Glass Rattner now. And I'm like, well, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
So
I was probably one of the first to get that email. And when I got that email, I made a few phone calls. And then I was sitting on a lot of information that nobody else knew about. And I said, I can't sit on this. I just can't. I have to get this out there, because I was already hearing people. I was already getting tweets, like people were tagging me on tweets and posts saying, Alex, I haven't been paid from distributor. This is horrible. What's going on? And I just kept hearing a few, and I was like, and it was in the middle of my own thing with my projects that I had going on with them. And I said, there's something here. So that's when I started getting a little bit more rough with my emails. And I reached out, and Michael emailed me back, and he said, sorry, we're reorganizing. And when I heard the word reorganizing, I said, oh crap, they're going bankrupt. And that's when I dug in a little deeper, and I found out a lot of the information that I was able to release in that first podcast. And then after that, I just came out guns a-blaring, because I was like, no.
Yeah. Haven't announced that they're going to go bankrupt, have they?
No, and that's the thing that really there's many things that really pissed me off about this whole situation, but the way Glass Rattner has handled this, the way Distributor Go Digital has handled this is atrocious. Atrocious. Because all they have to do, man, look, all they had to do, there was going to be you're going to get pissed off people regardless. Exactly. No one's going to be happy. Nobody wants to hear that you're not going to pay them, or there's a problem with your money. Nobody wants to hear that. But the way they handled it, which is this kind of very sneaky, behind closed doors, no information, just kind of this wall of like nothing. The only reason anybody knows about any of this is because I'm the one that came out originally and just started blowing everybody up about it. I'm like, dude, no. And then they even reached out to me like, dude, you need to stop that. I'm like, no, man, I'm not going to stop that. What you guys doing is immoral and horrible. And I even offered to them, I'm like, dude, if you want to use, like, I'll be your mouthpiece, dude. Just send me information so I could just get information out to filmmakers who are struggling and hurting. And we're still at the very early stages of this because I didn't know stories like yours. I didn't know the scope of this yet. I was just I'm like, oh, there's a handful of filmmakers are being affected by this. Let me get this information out. But then as I started to really dig into this, I was like, holy crap, we're talking about millions of dollars. We're talking about thousands of filmmakers. And it's not like these, guys who live in the Hollywood Hills like, oh, I'm not going to be able to buy my Tesla this month. Not those guys. It's guys like you and me who are struggling just to make money with our films. And, and in your case, you're like you're in dire straits because of this situation.
Right. Well, I think another thing we were talking about earlier when I went ahead and decided to go forward with making the film, I was watching a lot of these motivational videos, things that motivated me to keep me to push forward. And the things that would do that would be like watching Kevin Smith talk about, dude, when you want to make your first movie, your parents aren't going to believe in you. Your friends aren't. No fucking person is going to believe in you. And that's why he had to put it, everything on the credit cards.
Mm-hmm. And sell his comic book collection.
And then Stallone, of course, when he made Rocky, he's like, man, people were offering me like $330,000, and I fucking had nothing, and I still wouldn't take it because I knew if I didn't take this role, that I would never be anything. I had to take this role, and I had to hold out. So I mean, and that story, and then of course, Robert Rodriguez making El Mariachi. So every one of these stories, and even going back as far as swingers, like if Vince Vaughn and Jon Favreau didn't power through and make Swingers, that was like their first independent movie to do together, there would be no Marvel universe right now. People don't even realize that they did that movie to help launch their careers even more. And then he was able to do Iron Man because of that. That is all stepping stone. So we wouldn't be where we are today if it wasn't for all these guys who started out like where we are in the indie world. There wouldn't be no James Cameron. There wouldn't be any of these guys.
All of them.
Doing all this low budget shit. I think, matter of fact, James Cameron was fired.
Yes, from The Spawning. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah. And then they were doing it in Italy. And then when he was fired, he would sneak into the edit room at night, literally like break into the editing facility, re-edit the scenes that the editor had edited the day before and leave. Wow. And then I've studied this scenario a lot, sir. And then one night he got a deep flu of like 104-degree temperature, and he had delusional like nightmares and dreams, and that is where he came up with the image of the ectoskeleton from Terminator, and that's where the Terminator came from the Piranha 2 firing. Is why we have the Terminator and James Cameron and everything else he did. Sorry, on a side note.
Yeah, so me being like, those videos and those stories definitely were motivating me to keep me pushing through this hellacious time, which I could go into stories about that too.
Oh, sure.
We went through so much hell on this movie, so much hell. I mean, we lost people, like they died. Oh, the one guy that did come on, this guy, I was in a movie with this guy I didn't even know him. It was a movie called Knucklebones, and he played some bum or something in the movie. And come to find out later, that guy was a producer on that movie. Well, he was watching me from afar, like on social media, and I didn't even know who he was. And he called me up and said, hey, come meet me at this Chili's. I got something for you. And I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, what's this guy want,
Because all big movie deals are done at Chili's, obviously.
Yeah, Chili's, man. But the dude, he writes me a nice check, sends it over, and goes, I got nothing to say, man. This is not me. This is not a meeting. This is me offering this to you because I appreciate you and what you're doing. That's all it was. I was like, wow, the hell. And then one other dude that gave us a check kind of like that. There's just funny stories I could go on. We could spend hours talking about them. Uh-huh. But he did. I was on the way to the airport to pick somebody up, and he's like, where you at? And I was like, I'm going to the airport. He's like, pull over. I'm like 10 minutes from you. I got a check for you. So it was just stories like that, these angels just coming out of nowhere. But that guy, the guy who gave me that check at Chili's, he ended up dying December 23rd, a couple of years back, in a house fire.
Oh my God!
And then the guy who played the original song, the song for our movie, he played the drums, and he's in the music video on the Blu-ray that we have out. His girlfriend murdered him. So it was just like, fucking cursed. I mean, it was just like death after death. My cat, which was my best friend that helped me get through this movie, he had to be put down because he was dying. It was just like everybody was dying. My dad died, my aunt died, my uncles died. I mean, like, it was just like death. Everybody was losing family members, and people would literally be on set getting phone calls that people were dying or had died. And I was like, dude, this is Jack. And then my mom, when I was shooting one of the biggest scenes in the movie, went into ICU.
Oh, Jesus, man.
Here I am on set trying to finish the scene, and I'm arguing with actors. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to argue with you. I'm trying to get to the hospital to see my mom. Let's just finish the fucking scene. You know, but I had so much money invested in that day. Like,
you had to.
$5,000 or something. I was like, dude, I got to finish this. Everybody just shut the fuck up and let's just get the scene done, you know?
Right.
But
right.
Yeah, I mean, every day was a hardship, man. It was always a hardship. Something just not going right, as you know, with film. Yeah. Murphy's Law always comes into play.
Now, how did you discover Distributor?
They obviously they were spending filmmakers' money or somebody's money on ads because it was popping up everywhere. You couldn't go on Instagram, Facebook, or I don't think you could go on Twitter without something about Distributor coming up saying 100% rights, you keep them, 100% revenue in your pocket. I mean, that was what I heard.
In profit faster, as they said.
Yeah. And the guy that died in the fire, he had put that movie out, and he saw his first check, and he goes, "Whatever you do with your movie, man, do not do the normal distribution thing. We got to come up with something different to do with your film." And that's when I thought, man, this distributor thing sounds like the right avenue to go. And I kept talking to people, and they said, if you think you can handle the marketing, which most people can't, then go for it. So I literally spent 24/7 on social media looking for fans that would be a fan of my movie, and I'd send them the poster and information about it and everything. And I think now I'm up to like almost 11,000 on Facebook, almost 12,000 on Instagram. So those were my two that I focused on the most. And that's the only reason the movie did as well as it did, because I was on it 24/7 marketing to those fans. But people don't get that. They don't understand. It's like, dude, it's not going to be fun. Mm-hmm. I mean, I tell them, if you're a good used car salesman and you can sell the worst piece of shit on the lot, that's what you got to be able to do with your movie. Because when you say you made an independent film, there's so many bad ones out there. Most people aren't going to give them the time of day, and they sure as hell ain't going to pay for it.
Right. Exactly. And was there anybody specifically at Distributor that you worked with a lot, anything like that? I mean, I know you've mentioned a few names.
Jason Brubaker he called me a lot at the get-go when he saw that I was interested, right, to kind of sell me and push me over the hill to mm-hmm. why I should go with them. Mm-hmm. So
yeah,
and everything, and he and I seemed like we were on the same page. He's a very friendly guy, and it seemed like it was the perfect fit for what I wanted to do, because I wanted to show filmmakers a new way, because every single person, like I said, had said, man, I lost my ass with this movie. It's been out a year with this distribution company, and I've only made like, $1,000, or I made no money, or I made 5,000. I was like, dude, there's got to be a better way. I'm going to find a better way, and I'll let you guys in on the loop when I figure it out. But this was not the better way, unfortunately. But I really thought it was. But, Jason was one of those guys that I could reach out to. I could text him. I actually texted him the day after Christmas. I actually texted him on Christmas Day when our movie didn't appear on Amazon, and he responded the next day, December 26th. So that was good that we were at least able to figure out why it wasn't on Amazon. And at that time, they were saying it was too offensive to carry or something. But mm-hmm. they could never get in touch with a real person, mm-hmm. And they could never give me any real answers. So I just had to go in, cut the kidnappers out, and then have the project manager resubmit the movie to them, which we got on the way. But apparently, they didn't like the guys in the ski masks.
Fair enough. Yeah. That's a sensitive time.
But dude, at that time, everybody was coming out against our movie. Like every horror website, every podcast were like, dude, you can't make movies with nudity like that anymore, and you can't have these sex scenes, and you can't have all this language. And I was like, what are you talking about? Every movie has this. Every movie. And they're like, no, it doesn't. And then I'd have to go down a list of like everything. I was like, come on. I'm like, dude, even the movie Forgetting Sarah Marshall has like 3 penis shots in it. Come on. Every movie has nudity in it.
And again, your film is going after a specific niche audience. Like you're going after, I mean, this is not a broad audience kind of film. You know, this is not going to find millions and millions and millions of people who are going to probably want to watch this. But for the budget that you shot on, it makes sense. It just made, like, if you would have spent $500,000 on this or $1 million on this, that's not probably a smart idea.
Not without bigger names. Not without bigger names.
Huge names, yeah.
But if you understand, at the time we were doing this, I was up for some very big, I'll just say they did kind of have a little ties with Marvel. I was up for one of those huge roles that was going to be life-changing for me. Mm-hmm. And then I had brought in Billy Blair, who was from the Machete series. Yeah. And he had a bunch of movies too. So both of our careers at the time we made this movie a few years back, we were kind of, we were on the up and up, and he had just gotten cast. James Cameron and Robert Rodriguez had just cast him in the lead of Battle Angel. So we didn't know what that meant. We didn't know what his role was going to be in the movie. We didn't know how big it was going to be. They did cut quite a bit of it out, I think, for the release. But at the time, we were just like, dude, we're things are going on the up and up for us. We're going to get this movie out. Our acting careers are going great. So we thought by the time this comes out, people will know who we are.
And now, what's the status of the film now? Have you been able to pull your movie off of these platforms? What's going on?
Well, I think she said Linda had said several movies disappeared on Amazon. Ours was one of the ones that disappeared off of Amazon, the digital version of it. The Blu-ray is still up there because it's through Scream Team Releasing. Mm-hmm. But the digital version is not up there. Somehow it got pulled off. I don't know who pulled it off. I'm almost thinking
Amazon did, probably.
Amazon did that.
Yeah, Amazon.
It was not. I think she thought it was Distributor who did it, or somebody. But
no, it's Amazon.
They couldn't have done it because they didn't take me down from anything. Mm-hmm. I'm still up on every single platform, and I'm sending them emails every couple of days. And I think one of the guys the other day gave us the email to contact Glass Rattner. Mm-hmm. So I just did that too. I've sent emails to Seth saying, hey, man, get the damn movie off the platforms, man. I want to move on, with a new distribution deal, or, do something else with the movie.
So what is the plans for your movie now in the future?
Well, I'm wanting to talk to Linda over at Indie Rights. Okay. So that's hopefully going to happen soon. I did send her an email with all my stuff. Hopefully she'll get to that, or she may want me to go through the submission process.
I'm almost likely you're going to go through the submission process because she has so much. She's been inundated with films after this whole debacle. Everybody, I went through the submission process. So you're going to have to go through the submission process.
I don't mind going through the submission process. I just wanted to have a call with her first. But
sure.
If you just want to do the call first, then I'll go through the submission process.
Sure. It's a little crazy right now with AFM, too. They're going nuts trying to get everything ready for the American film market.
Linda, you need Cherokee Creek.
Obviously, it's a moneymaker. You've made money with it. It's a good money.
I can tell you, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, and I made $65. It grossed $65,000 doing the things I was doing. So
right.
So we can do even better. So.
Without question, and now, but you still have the DVDs and Blu-rays. Is that generating any money for you?
I think last check was it grossed about $13,000 so far.
That's great. That's great in a DVD. Yeah, because again, that genre really does like physical media, so DVD and Blu-ray works really well. You really should, if you have a chance, if you're able to do it. Do you know that? I don't know if you've ever heard that episode of mine. Drew Marvick, who did Pool Party Massacre, which is kind of like
right. Yeah, he actually, I didn't know it was him. He bought our movie at one of the horror conventions, and he was hanging out at a different booth, and I didn't know it was him. And then later on, I got a copy of his movie, and I was watching. I was like, dude, that was the guy that bought a copy of our movie.
Yep.
And he sent me a hat as well, so he's a cool guy.
Drew is awesome. He's been on the show. You should listen to his podcast episode, because I actually even use him as a case study in my new book, The Rise of the Film Entrepreneur, because he was able to do something in the horror genre I just thought was so brilliant, because it's similar than you, because you guys are both low-budget horror films that are very niche. He's doing an 80s slasher flick. You're doing like an 80s slasher raunchy flick. And but what I loved he did, and it was one of the reasons why I called him when he pitched me about being on the show, he was selling VHS copies of his movie, and they looked amazing. I'm like, they were clamshell.
Right. And we did that for a little while.
Did you? And did it work? I'm sure you sold.
Yeah. I think I've been trying to get with Screen Team to sell more of those, but I don't know. I think the sales are kind of slowing down with the Blu-ray at this point. I don't know.
But do you have the
hopefully
VHS rights, or the Scream team have the right? They have the
they
VHS
have the
rights.
rights for the VHS and the Blu-ray for at the moment.
Ask them.
But
I think if you have a conversation, I'm like, dude, just give me the VHS rights plaque, please. What you do is this: you go to all your thrift shops around your neighborhood and around the cities around you, and buy every Disney VHS copy that you see in the clam case. Then you take it back home, get 2 VHS tapes, and record. That's exactly what Drew did. He recorded over Pinocchio,
wow.
and he labeled it. And he had a green series, a yellow series, a red series. And then he just put slips in, and that's how he sold them. And he would sell them for $25, $30 a pop because they're unique. And it was so good that people would buy his movie thinking that it was an 80s movie that they just missed.
Right? That's what I thought. That's what I thought when I saw it. I was like, this must be some old movie I missed,
You know why? Because he got the poster art guy who was an artist, a cover artist from the 80s to do it. Because when I saw that cover, I'm like, this looks, I could have seen this on the VHS.
I think he's making the second one right now. Any year he's about to. I need to call him and say, dude, cast me in your movie.
He'll don't be careful what you wish for because he'll do it. No, he's really smart.
He's like, sure, $5,000. Come on in.
He'll pay. Yeah, I charge all my actors only $5,000 to be in my movie.
I charge all my actors to be in my movies. Hey, I'm guilty of. We had to do that for ours. There were people who made those donations, and then of course everybody's like, "Hey, Mo, you should cut this person out of the movie," and you're like, "Can't do that. Sorry."
Yeah, sorry. It's called filmmaking politics, indie film politics, as we like to call it.
If I tell a role to somebody, the kid stays in.
Amen, brother. Amen. I understand completely where you're coming from.
Cut somebody out that paid to help us make the movie.
That's not smart politics as far as trying to get your movie made and getting it out there.
The one decision I made that was probably the best decision on casting, I brought in the guy from Tactical Response that trained Jeremy Renner for The Hurt Locker.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you ever see the movie, he's in a really funny scene. But that dude has sold more copies of the movie probably than any of us. He's got like hundreds of thousands of fans, and he runs a tactical training school.
Oh yeah. I saw that that he posted it on his YouTube.
Yeah, he posted it on his YouTube, and I don't know where we're at now, but he's
like
got
5,000-6,000,
at least 10,000 people about how much distributor and their people over at distributors suck. Well, geez, that's great. My cat decided to knock some shit over. Sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. We're a live show. I don't edit. It's fine. But so listen, dude.
It wasn't me. Come here. This is the guilty one. This little girl right here.
Look at that. There you go. She looks it.
You're guilty.
So, well, listen, brother, I do appreciate you coming on the show. I really wanted to have you on the show because I wanted to kind of really put a face and a story behind this horrible situation that distributors put us all through. A lot of filmmakers. Some filmmakers are hurting a lot worse than others. You are hurting. You're probably one of the harder stories I heard. I know filmmakers who are owed $200,000-$300,000, dude. Like literally, $200,000-$300,000. Like they're getting attorneys involved and they're trying to, reaching out to the FBI. They're really doing as much as we can. So when you think you're bad, there's always someone who is owed more or in a worse situation. And I'm not saying that, but you're in a pretty bad situation. And I wanted to kind of put you up there. I want to put a spotlight on your story because I think it's important for people that are listening to understand the pain that filmmakers are going through because of this ridiculous, horrible situation. And by the people behind it at Distributor, everybody involved, anybody that was complicit in this information, knowing about this information and left the company or was, or whatever, because they're like, this is not for me, I'm out of here, and didn't do anything to inform any of us about what was going on, even on a, like a simple call.
I say it's a crime. I say no matter what.
It is a crime, sir. It is a crime.
It's a crime.
It is a crime.
Nothing to it. When you try to explain it to people, and even talking to attorneys now that I've tried to talk to about the situation, and almost everybody, they still think that distributor, because of their name, or distribution company. They don't understand. They're like, this happens all the time. And I'm like, no, this is an aggregator that did this. This is not a distribution company. We paid for the services, which they were just basically encoding our movie. And it still really bothers me. It's like, how many fucking people did they hire over there? Like, where did all this money go? You and I know as well as I do, it doesn't take that many people it was taking them, 90 plus days to QC a movie and to encode it.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, look, it's not lattes.
it's
I can tell you
wrong.
that. I don't think they've lost millions of dollars in lattes. You know, I know lattes are expensive, but I don't think that's where it went. And I don't know where the money is. I originally said mismanagement, but I don't know what
There's
happened.
no way it's mismanagement. This had to be done on
I,
purpose.
I don't know what's going on. I don't know the details inside. But with that said, there's so much fishy stuff that's going on, so much information that's come out since we started this whole journey, which has only been around 3 weeks now, been 3-4 weeks or something like that, that I launched that first podcast. And every day it's more information's coming out. That group that I started, Protect Yourself from Distributor, there's so much valuable information and there's so many people telling us stories, so many people updating us about, hey, I just got this email. Hey, like just today I posted that rev.com, Glass Rattner, or the assignee or whatever that company is that's taking care of the payments, actually sent an email statement to Rev to say anybody who was a distributor client can get their closed captioning and subtitles back for free if they can prove that they are the owners of the movie. So that's huge for us because now you don't have to go out and redo it and spend another $100.
I do because my cut's different. So.
That's on you, sir. But generally speaking, if your film hasn't changed, you can get that information. Man, I know guys who did a series. They're gonna have to spend $1,000 to get all of the closed captioning back for all of this whole series that they went through the distributor with. So that's I mean, like, I don't want to say, like, it's salt in the wound at this point. So that information just came out. Linda did a lot of legwork on that, and we posted that out. And we've got a big article coming out with the LA Times, hopefully soon.
I don't know how these guys are walking around not feeling scared. I would be so.
Oh, no, I promise you. All of them are scared shitless. And the reason why they're scared shitless is because people like me, like Joe, like you, like everybody in the group are not letting this die. And all of us listening cannot allow this to die. Because if we just let it, I'm just too big, I just don't want to deal with this, I just want to move on. If you do that, they win. They win. Right. So we have to keep making.
And that's what I'm trying to explain to my wife too, because when you're married, this is drama in your life every single day.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to take a call, even from the LA Times or anybody or the FBI, ever who we're dealing with. You got to do it. You got to do this every single day. But the family life doesn't understand that. They're just like, they want you to wash your hands and just go on. My wife wants me to put this behind us and just get out of the film altogether at this point. Because she just sees the whole thing as just, it's an evil business and there's no way to recover from it. And I'm trying to say there is a way to recover. And
yes, there is.
God, when I go with Indie Rights or somebody like Indie Rights, I can prove to her there is some good people out there, and that this doesn't happen every day. And it happened to thousands of people. We're not the only ones. It wasn't because I was a dumbass and made some stupid fucking mistake.
And signed a horrible predatory distribution deal with some company that just stole everything.
That stole from us, and they stole from thousands of people.
Right.
And we're going to hold them to the fire for it. We're going to make sure they pay the price for all the shit that they've done.
And that's what we're trying to do. And I think everyone listening, if you are involved with this, or even if you're not involved with distributor, if you can spread the word, if you can keep at it and keep pushing on it and keep the noise up. That's why I'm so excited about the LA Times, because they're the LA Times.
That's awesome.
That's a huge news organization.
I gave them everything, man. I gave them my dashboard, anything that they could use, for right now to help this case.
Yeah, and
I told them, please do not minimize it the way that Variety did, and IndieWire. I was like, you got to make sure you're putting in the article. It's thousands of people affected.
And millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars. Not somebody 2,000, 500, whatever. That just minimizes the story. Like it's not a big deal. Like you lost a bet on a fight or something.
Yeah, I'm just hoping that this does go a little deeper, and it sounds like they are going to go a little deeper. And I'm very appreciative of IndieWire. I'm very appreciative of Variety to even cover this, because I'm appreciative of No Film School, all these guys that came out after I did, and have just put a little bit of shine on it, even if it's small or even if it's a little bit bigger. It's something. But I truly hope that it's something. I do hope that the LA Times really does blow it out of the water, and I do feel it is. By the way, anyone listening, the FBI is aware of the situation, because this is copyright issues. This is fraudulent actions. There is talks with the FBI. There is talks with the LA District Attorney. This is a serious thing, man. This is no joke. And we have to lead the battle.
IRS involved too, because guess what?
Don't worry.
They don't get paid their taxes.
Don't worry. Well, IRS is always around, dude. Don't worry. That's the one.
Well, the IRS needs to audit them so we can find out how much we got screwed.
Don't you worry, my friend. They got Al Capone on taxes, brother. So they always get you, no matter what. And I really hope that some sort of justice happens. And I've said this publicly before, and I know, and something that you've said before. I've lost hope that we're ever going to get a dime back. I don't truly believe that we're going to get any money back. If there's no money there, and these guys are, if there's no money there, the money's been taken, mismanaged, whatever. I don't know if it's going to come back. I hope it does. Maybe we'll get something, but I'm not waiting for a magical check to show up with all my money.
Well, what we need is one of those angels in Hollywood that's got billions of dollars, or even the digital platforms who've made all this money off of us to go, hey guys, we understand that we were business partners with these pieces of shit.
Yes.
Why don't we give you some of that money back? Because it seems like, and I can't get iTunes or anybody to comment about what's going on. Why can't iTunes or any of these people help us? Why can't they participate in this?
There's one company that I know of which is Netflix. Netflix is, anybody who had a Netflix deal, they're taking care of the situation in one way, shape, or form. So if you're owed money, I think Netflix is going to pay you.
Wow.
If it's Netflix. But it's Netflix, and that's a special deal. That was a contractual deal. It's a SVOD deal. It's not transactional. It's a different story. But all of these other companies need to come to the plate, because if I'm hoping that the LA story goes national, the LA Times story goes national, and a lot of shade gets thrown on these platforms, because it's their responsibility to take care of us, the independent filmmakers, because they forced us to go through these aggregators without any sort of responsibility financially, or any fiduciary responsibility, any requirements by the platforms, by these companies, to handle their money in the way they handle their money, other than self-regulated. And we see how well that worked with Distributor. So they're on the hook. In my eyes, those companies are all liable. Those companies are all responsible for this situation, because they forced us. Unlike dealing a distribution deal.
I agree. If you force someone to go with an aggregator that you approve, and you've got thousands of movies on your platform underneath that aggregator,
which you're making money on,
who are going to do their research, are going to look it up. Like, I looked up Distributor, and you saw thousands of movies, and movies that you saw and had watched before, and you're like, that makes them seem more legitimate. You guys are betting this company, basically. They betted Distributor, saying, hey, we work with these guys. They're good guys.
If I tell my buddy Bob, and I go, Bob, look, I'm gonna send Todd's gonna do the work for me, all right? He's gonna remodel your house, and then all the money is gonna go through Todd. So I'm gonna just send a check to Todd, and then Todd is gonna send the money to you, Bob. Now, if you leave town and don't give the money to Bob, who's on the hook for that? It's not you. You're gone, because I told you to go through you. I'm on the hook. They're going to come after me. Now, mind you, I'm not as big as these billion-dollar conglomerates, but they are responsible. And the one thing that someone told me, which was great, it's like, they might not care about the money, but they do not want a public hanging. They don't want a public hanging. And that is what's going to happen if these guys do not step up. And if these guys don't step up. And let's not even talk about the Go Digital board, which is full of very well-to-do people. And I want to know what they knew, when they knew it, and why the hell has nobody come out and said anything about, none of the board members, not one board member has made a comment. Not one ex-employee has made a comment about what's going on with Distributor. And they know what's going on. Even Glass Rattner has not made a public announcement. If it wasn't for us doing what we're doing, no one would know anything. So all these other guys are all hiding. They're all scared, and they want this to go away. But I promise you, this will not go away, because it's not going away. It's not going to go away because of people like you, like me, like Joe, like Linda. Everybody else is going to stay on this until something happens for us filmmakers, and we get down to the bottom of this. Because I'm
trying to explain to the other filmmakers in the industry, and because as you hear, everybody's like, you see these messages constantly. Well, you're an idiot. Why'd you go with Distributor? I told you they were bad. All this.
Nobody knew.
It doesn't matter, because if they're allowed to get away with this, then it means another aggregator could do it. The fact that it could even happen should have you scared that it could happen to you, because if your movie goes through one of these aggregators, you're not going to get paid. And if your actors are SAG actors, they're not going to get paid. It affects everybody in the industry, every single person. And they should all be concerned about it. They're just like, I totally get this all the time. Well, we didn't go with distributors, so we're not worried about it. That's all they say. But I'm like,
I've heard that too.
You got to worry about it. You got to worry about it.
Because if it happens to us, it could happen to you.
It could happen to you. Exactly. It needs to be regulated. Something has to change with the digital platforms and their business model and the way they're going to handle business going forward after this debacle, because no one's protected right now. Right now it's saying, hey, I can just set up as an aggregator, steal all this money for 1 year and leave, and not a fucking thing happens to me.
Mm-hmm. And they're taking advantage of the weakest of our industry, which are independent filmmakers in many ways, a small independent filmmakers.
There's thousands of us, and it ended up costing all of us millions of dollars when you add it up. So somebody's getting away with millions of dollars from all of us.
Someone's living on a farm right now. Living on a farm right now, living the life with money that possibly could have gone to us. Right. I know Glass.
Trying to justify. People keep saying, "Hey, maybe they spend it on this or that." I'm like, dude, there's no way to justify it. Trying to justify what they did would be like, I film auditions for the studios and I do it by myself, right? Mm-hmm. Like people come in and they audition for all the big Marvel movies or whatever I have a non-disclosure agreement with to film for these different TV shows and movies. I filmed these auditions. I can't fucking go out and just say, oh, well, I hired fucking 50 fucking people to do that. And that's what they did. They have all these people there, and when it literally all they were doing was QCing our movie, which was probably done with software. It didn't really take it. No one was physically sitting there watching the movie without blinking, looking for a mistake.
No, it's done with software. It's done with software.
Yeah, everything was done with software. The QCing was done with software. The encoding was done with software.
Oh, and there's one little lovely note that I'd like to bring out there. They were charging $1,400 to do subtitling and captioning sometimes, or part of their $2,000 package or whatever it was. Yeah. And then I would say when I did my movie, I'm like, hey, I'm just going to use rev.com to do it. And they're like, oh no, we've heard a lot of bad things about Rev. It's not good. We've had a lot of things got kicked back and this and that. And I'm like, oh, all right. Well, so if it's included in the package, fine. But you know what they did? They just sent it to Rev.
Oh my God.
That's why they just sent it to Rev.
They badmouthed the company that they were using.
They were badmouthing the company they were using. Why? Because then they could triple the fee. So if it cost them $150, which is $1 a minute, so no, whatever, it's a 2-hour movie, it's $120. It's $90 if it's a 90-minute movie. They would charge you $450, $500 because in the olden days it used to be $6, $7, $8 a minute to close caption.
They've been rotten for quite a while.
No, that was part of their business model because they needed to make some money somewhere. So they were just trying to rip off filmmakers every which way they could. They're like,
and we paid them. We gladly paid them for it. So they made their fucking money charging us up front.
And even with that,
no reason to steal our money.
But even with that, it wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to keep the model going. It wasn't enough to keep the company going. And that's where we're talking about this mismanagement or some hanky-panky going on behind closed doors. But it's BS, man. And I'm really, very cautious, obviously now about any film aggregator out there, but it's a broken model. Even the biggest aggregators out there, and a lot of people, I won't name names, but everybody knows the other aggregators out there. They're all self-regulated, man. They're all the same thing. It's the exact same things the distributor was doing. Do they have their money in a separate account for everybody? Maybe not. Who has access to that account? Everything
has to change no matter what. It has to change.
It has to change.
Happen again.
And if we don't continue to make noise about this, I feel real passionate about this. Obviously, I do. If we don't continue to make noise about this sends the sign to another idiot or another thief or another scam artist out there to open up shop and take advantage of people. And I'm including distribution companies as well in this conversation with predatory distribution companies, which is so long overdue for a smack in the face, because I'm sick and tired of hearing stories like you told me, like, oh, don't go with distributors, man, because they're just going to rip you off. I'm tired of that normal, everyday BS story that's inherent. It's a virus that's inside of our business for independent filmmaking, and it needs to go away. There are good distributors out there. There's Indie Rights. There's Terra Films with Joe Dane's guys. These guys are honest people, to my knowledge, at least. Always do your research. I'm never ever going to advocate for a company. I always say, look, in my opinion, I think they're good people. Do your research.
Be super duper careful what you say,
because people listen. But it's your responsibility as a producer and as a filmmaker to do your due diligence and to follow up on any recommendation that anyone gives you, let alone me. So there are good people out there. There are good people trying to help filmmakers out there that have been around for a long time. But the majority of everybody out there, for lack of a better term, are crooks. They're crooks. They're shady. And I'm talking about the big distribution companies in the indie film space as well. I won't name names. There's some good ones. There's some horrible ones. There's some of them that put out 40 or 50 movies a month. And you actually think they're going to put any kind of marketing budget behind your movie? No, it's called the shotgun approach.
If they just make $2,000 off that movie, they're gonna line their pockets because of volume.
Oh, but don't forget that they're also going to charge you for encoding. They're also going to charge you for closed captioning, and they're going to just start upcharging you all this stuff. And let's not even get into chargebacks for going to
that would take another couple hours to discuss.
Chargebacks and film market payments and all that kind of crap with their model that they have now. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation. I did a whole podcast on predatory distributors, but I will continue this battle with this, because I think this is the biggest problem we have in independent film.
I appreciate you so much, man, and everybody in the group. You guys are all awesome. If it wasn't for this group, there's no telling what stupid thing I would have done. Who knows? To know that you guys are out there helping with the good fight, that's good.
We got to keep it up.
I was contemplating on driving over to LA myself, and
finding some people. Yeah, well, let's not do that. Let's not do that, please.
I didn't have to shoot anybody. I might punch them in the face.
Just for your own feeling. I get it. I don't advise anybody.
The time to punch them in the face. I think it's worth it.
I advise nobody listening to go punch anybody in the face. Let's make that clear.
There's thousands of us. If every single person affected by this debacle
goes and punches somebody in the face, don't do that, please. Don't do that.
Punch them.
Don't do that, sir. I cannot propagate or promote this kind of action, sir. I cannot. But
I see the smile.
I understand. But I understand your feelings. I truly do. But I cannot promote this.
When I was growing up, we just punched people in the face and it worked. Everything got itself worked out.
Yeah, I remember those things.
This could probably require a few punches to the face.
It might be a nut shot, but anyway.
Oh yeah, a couple of those for sure. I got to run because I got an appointment that I'm late for. But thank you so much for your time.
No, thank you. And listen,
everybody's doing.
Thank you again so much, brother. I really do appreciate it, and keep up the good fight, man. We'll keep it on our end.
We'll talk more about stuff later. I'll give you a ring, and I'm definitely going to be talking to Linda and Indie Rights for sure. Thank you so much for everything, man.
Thanks, man.